Dentistry and General Radio Network presents
the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera. In this episode,
welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Today my guest is Dr. Nguyen. He just goes by Nguyen, the American version W-I-N. And he has a root camp endodontic treatment teaching course at 4 levels. He's passionate about what he does. He talks about some of the most important things in life, very simple as time and health. And he talks technique, he teaches technique and skills, and the skills work with the technique. And I think you're going to really enjoy this. He's a straight shooter, answers the questions spot on, and you can feel his passion as he speaks. I think you're going to enjoy this episode. If you like the episode, do what I ask you all the time. Please share it with your friends. Click like, subscribe, do all that great stuff. Quick shameless plug. We are looking for a dentist to join our group. We're in upstate New York. We are an out-of-network practice, and we have a team of 7 great dentists, and we're looking for another one to join our 5-office group. We have our own lab. We got all the bells and whistles, but most importantly, we have a very common denominator in terms of patient care is at the forefront of everything we do, and that drives us. And you take care of the patient, and everything else takes care of itself. And we live that. If you don't like the show, or you don't have you have something to say, or you want to be a guest, hit me up, call me, text me, 607-624-2962, or sonnyspera@gmail.com, and Sonny is with an O. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you for listening. Let's grow this baby. Have a great day.
The Journey of Dr. Nguyen, Resilience, Reinvention, and a New Vision for Dentistry, Part 1, a discussion with Dr. Sonny Spera.
Welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast, Dr. Sonny Spera. Today, my special guest, and I was introduced by our good friend Bob D, Dr. Bob D, and this is Dr. Nguyen, and he goes by Nguyen, American pronunciation W-I-N, okay? So let me give you some of his background, as I think it's very interesting. Dr. Nguyen earned his bachelor's degree in dental sciences in 1997 from the Catholic University of Louvain in Brussels, Belgium. He subsequently earned his certificate in clinical endodontics and Master of Science in Dentistry in 2001 from Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. Dr. Nguyen was a full-time assistant professor in the Department of Endodontics at the University of Maryland from 2001 to 2004, and at the Oregon Health and Science University from 2004 to 2008. Apparently, he's not sure which coast he wants to live on. That's been established here. He is also a master at the World Clinical Laser Institute and adjunct professor of endodontics at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. Dr. Nguyen is the founder of Polaris Dental Specialists, DAWTS, Dental Advanced Weapons, Dental Advanced Weapons and Tactics School, and Root Camp. And those of you watching, you can see those logos on his background. He's currently attached to the Department of Endodontics at Biomaterials at Boston University, where he's conducting laser research aimed at shifting the endodontic paradigm. Dr. Nguyen is fluent in English, French, and Vietnamese, and enjoys lecturing about clinical endodontics and practice management at both national and international levels. So first of all, welcome, Dr. Nguyen. How are you?
Thank you, Sonny. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. How are you doing today, all right?
I'm doing great. I'm ready for a good conversation.
There you go. There you go. Now, you got to tell me, you have ping-ponged all over this country, right? What attracted you to settling in Boston?
So actually, I am traveling to Boston, but I reside in Texas, north of Dallas.
Makes sense. Tell me about that. How's that work?
So we were in Oregon, then we moved to Texas in 2022, and that's when I decided to go back to school and do my doctorate in laser in endodontics. So for 3 years, I went back and forth between Texas and Boston, and now I continue to do that on a part-time basis. So that's how we ended up.
So you're in a PhD program at Boston University, and that's the laser component?
That's correct. And it's not a PhD in Boston for dentists, at least. It's called a DSCD, which is a Doctorate of Science in Dentistry. So it's a little bit shorter than a PhD, and it's a 5-year program, 2 of clinical and 3 of research. But since I'm already an endodontist, they waived the clinical component. So I strictly went for the research, which is what I wanted to do.
So what does your normal week look like? Are you still seeing patients? Tell me, I'm having a hard time getting my mind around all the things that you
I,
got yourself involved with here.
right. So as we left Oregon in 22, I stopped the practice that was in Oregon. So the question was, do I open a practice in Texas or what do I do? So I had 3 big components that I was juggling in the air, and that was patients, root camp, and then suddenly a new component, which was going back to school. And I knew I was not going to be able to do all 3 well. So the one I decided to drop was patience, and it kind of made sense because I had no practice yet moving to Texas. So that's where
Mhm.
we are currently still. And back then, I didn't know if I was going to go back to practice. Now I do know because in 2 years, I'll be retired. It makes no sense to start a practice at this point.
Mhm. So where do you hold root camp? Where is that located? Is that in Oregon?
So it used to be in Oregon. The headquarters used to be in Oregon, and then now it is in Sherman, Texas, and that's about an
Okay.
hour north of Dallas. But root camp happens all over the world. Level 1 is a portable component of root camp, whereas level 2 and above are attached to the headquarters in Sherman, Texas.
So what does it look like? So I'm assuming then that level 2 is hands-on and level 1 is more didactic. Is that the case?
That's the almost the case. All levels have hands-on, but at level 1, the hands-on component is very small or smaller. I shouldn't say very small. It's 1 day out of 3 of hands-on. Was level 2 and above, it's kind of the opposite. There's less didactic. The foundation being built at level 1. At level 2 and above, we now focus on doing hands-on on cadaver specimens. So that is where it just takes off very fast because the model changes, but also the amount of time dedicated to the hands-on drastically changes.
Okay. So level 1, you still have to physically attend, be in attendance to take level 1?
That's correct. I'm not a believer in virtual classes.
Thank you.
Um,
By the way, thank you for that. I don't buy it either. No, I think what we miss on that, if I can, I'm gonna just go on my little soapbox for a second. I think the part that's missing is the interaction among the students.
that's right.
The conversations where, okay, you're a dentist in Sherman, Texas. I'm a dentist in Binghamton, New York. And here's a dentist in, Butte, Montana. And teeth are teeth. And people are people. And, your challenges, my challenges, his challenges, her challenges are similar. And we can really all help each other out, especially after the fact. You might get back and say, you know what, Dr. Nguyen was talking about this one thing. I had this patient. What do you think? Now, in the old days, you'd pick up the phone and call. Now you can text or send messages or Instagram,
Right,
whatever, but
right.
you communicate and you now have another mentor or bond or ally or someone in the same boat with you rowing in the same direction. And when you take it all online, you're doing it in a cocoon and you miss that. And I think that so enhances the education component. You want to speak
Absolutely.
to
And
that?
if I may add, Sony, is is we need that human interaction. And it's not the same when we interact online versus in person, right? And my style is very what's the word? Engaging.
Mm-hmm.
So engaging people is different when you have them in person. And it goes both ways, right? I engage and it forces people to engage back. And it's different. The only component we have online, Sony, is the level 4, which is the mini residency. These are people who are so self-motivated that I do not worry about them not being engaged on online because they are so hungry to learn. But others who are at earlier levels, I do not know yet their level of motivation. So they may be taking classes, half motivated. That's not why I teach. Is when I teach, I just want to see the results in their success. And I like to kind of joke saying this is if you believe in online learning and virtual learning, then I'm concerned that your success eventually may also be virtual. And I think the students get that. It's like, oh, that makes sense. So
Hmm.
I thought that it'd be helpful to kind of throw my 10 cents in there.
Hmm. So how often are you running this a root camp? What does it look like? Is it Thursday through Saturday? What does it look like?
So all levels except level 4 are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And when we do have a laser component attached to level 1, then it's a Monday. But that's a punctual decision. Some locations have the laser components, others don't. But otherwise, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And
When you say
the
some
level 4
locations,
is just weekly with the mini
so,
resident.
but when you say some locations, are all things, do you have a center? How is this administered? How are you doing it?
Right. So wherever it's given, the curriculum's the same, but the location changes. So we may have it at our headquarters in Sherman, or we may have it in Florida, we may have it in Japan, in Italy, and
Really?
the
So you
curriculum
really
is,
take the show on the road.
that's
Okay.
right. That's right.
All right. So you're doing that. What is it? What's your number of students typically in the class?
Sure. Our classes vary anywhere from 8 to 15, and that's our choice. We choose to have very small group for the reason I told you earlier is I like to engage. I like it to be seminar versus lecture style. So we cap our courses when it reaches capacity.
So how many people are helping teach the course? Just yourself?
Just myself. The hands-on portion, I sometimes have my residents help me if it's a larger group. But otherwise, I believe quality starts with having control of the curriculum and who helps you teach. And I don't believe in total control, and I'm not a control freak, but I am all about quality. And quality is quickly lost if we don't keep track of who is part of the
So where was
teaching.
your inspiration to teach?
I'm not sure, Sonny. My mom was a teacher, and I as soon as I
Whoa,
finished,
I was a teacher. That helped.
but I never knew her as a teacher. She was a teacher before the Vietnam War ended, and I was 3 when the Vietnam War ended. So I never saw her as a teacher. I never knew her as a teacher. So if it's genetic, then yes, I got it from her. But as far as seeing her and being nurtured into teaching, I cannot say that because I never knew her as a teacher.
Well, let's take it. So what did your dad do? What was your father's occupation?
My dad is a medical doctor.
Okay. So your dad's a doctor, your mom's a teacher. So they're both teachers, really.
Really,
All
that's
right.
right.
So what part of Vietnam did you grow up in?
So it was the only part of Vietnam I know is Saigon because that's where I was born, and that's where the 3 years after I was born, the war ended. And under communists, you don't go anywhere. You just hope you would live. So
Okay.
that's all I know.
So you were born and raised for 3 years in Saigon. Did you stay?
Yeah, so after the war, let me count the years. I believe in so 82 is when we finally left officially. We tried as boat people and we failed. That I believe that was in 79 or 78, and then 82 was when we left as political refugees
And where did you end up settling then? California?
in Belgium. That was our first stop.
Ah, okay. So you
Yes,
went to Belgium, right?
that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And so at that point, what grade are you in school, ballpark?
So, I'm sorry, could you please say that again?
How far along in school are you when you get to
Oh,
Belgium?
I see. What grade meaning
What
what
grade
class,
level?
right?
Yeah.
So I landed in Belgium. It's counted like this. It's primary school and then secondary school, and there's 6 classes in each. So I landed in the third class in primary school, and
Okay.
I
So,
lost 1 or 2 years because of all the shuffling and all of that.
so that would equate to in America about grade 4, right? 3 or 4.
Yes, that's
Sound right?
correct. That's
All
correct.
right. And now you land in a country you don't speak the language, I'm assuming, correct? And you
Exactly
got to
that.
go to school.
Yes.
So what was that like, not just assimilating, but to learn the language and function in school?
It was hard and it wasn't hard at the same time. It was hard because it wasn't just a language. It was the culture. It was everything was different, right? The snow was new for me, so everything was different. But it was hard because I had to graduate class after class. But surprisingly, it went really smoothly because I assume I was so young that it just happened. But I remember one instance. There was this teacher who, if he was upset, he would throw the eraser at students. And here is my first week in his class, and I see this this teacher throwing an eraser, but he never threw it at me. That's something I remember as one of my first memories of going to school in Belgium.
Okay, so when you left and you both settled there, so let's see. So you stayed in Vietnam until you were about 8 or 9. Is that about right?
You're right. You're
All right.
correct.
When you guys are having dinner or a meal with your family, right? You're sitting around. What's the conversation around the dinner table like?
Back then, it was whatever it took to make it to the next day and the next month, right? My dad couldn't practice medicine. My mom couldn't teach because they were in a country where the diploma were not recognized.
So they stripped them of all their, we'll call it worth, right? Like
Yes,
all the things that they work to earn and achieve and become are now taken away, just like that in the blink of an
that's
eye.
right. And not to give
Wow.
credit to Belgium, it's not like it was stripped from us. We had to earn it again. So my
Well,
dad went back to school.
but before you left, he was still a physician in Vietnam, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's
So
correct.
when you guys had, I'm talking about like when you had your meals and you talked as a family. Now, do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have one older sister.
Okay. All right. So what's the age gap between you guys?
Yes, my sister Anne is 5 years older than me.
Okay. All right. So she's a little more mature. So when she comes to Belgium, I'm assuming, right? She's a little more advanced and she's probably a little more ingrained in the Vietnamese culture.
Yes,
Probably much harder transition for her.
that's right. That's right. But again,
Right?
she learned really fast. My sister and I are similar in that sense as we adapt very well and very quickly. But yes, you're right. At her age, it would have been much harder than at my age.
So what does your dad's journey look like to get back in the medical profession? Does he have to go back for more schooling? Does he have to get a different degree? What's that look like?
So he ended up having to get an equivalence. And he would tell me, right, as I got older, I didn't remember because I was so young, but he'd say some teachers were very, very helpful because they felt the empathy for these older refugees who were trying
Right?
to get back on their feet. And then on the other hand, there were some others who were on the, how do I say this, borderline racist, where they would do everything to
Yeah.
prevent him from getting
Yeah, but didn't the community, that's a certain set of skills, right? I can't imagine that they're bubbling with physicians all over Belgium, right? So that would be something, right, that they would say, well, geez, this person could be a tremendous asset to our country and our community and everything else, right? You would think
right.
from the outside looking in, boy, that would make sense. But there's always going to be that feeling of outsider, insider, right? You're not an
That's right.
insider, you're an outsider.
That's right.
Right. But so what did that look like? How long did it take him to get licensed?
If I remember correctly, it would have from 82 to about 6 years later, he then started to open his medical practice. Yes.
Wow.
6 years
And
and he
he's about how old's your father at this point?
he's 80, 86.
No, but at this point he's in his 60s. He's doing this or he's in his 40s.
Oh, back then he
Yeah,
was in his mid 40s, Sonny.
mid 40s. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So yeah, so that's a lot of paying your dues, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But so you and your sister, you're seeing this, right? Does that have an impact on you?
Oh, absolutely. And we saw it on both sides, right? My dad and my mom. So my dad ended up driving tramways, buses, working at an optical shop before
Mhm.
he became a doctor again. My mom cleaned houses, had a bakery. So my sister and I would, after school, we would go and work at the bakery, sell pastries and so forth, study in the back of the bakery. So yes, the short answer is absolutely. It shaped the way we grew and who we are as we speak.
So what was your sister's career path, and then what stimulated you into your career path? So what was her career path?
So she stimulated me into this career path. My sister is a pediatric dentist. She
Okay.
and I graduated from the same school in Brussels, and
Yeah.
then she went on and married a Vietnamese American, and then did her pedo in um, in the DC area at Howard. And then
So, so, so what was the push, or where did becoming a dentist get on her radar then? Because obviously then she impacted you, but where did that come for her? Where's the genesis of that idea?
and actually, I do not know the details how she got into dentistry, but she definitely was the one who got me in dentistry. I was initially going to be a medical doctor, and my
Yeah,
dad told me, "It's like, unless you're going to be really good, I would discourage you to be a medical doctor because
really?
it would be so challenging to be thriving." So my sister jumped in. She's, "Oh, so you're so good with your hands. Maybe you should consider dentistry."
Okay.
So I fell for the how do I say this? The calling, I could say. And then I did dentistry. It didn't appeal to me for the first 4 years. And in my last year, I started to see the light, but then it was a little bit late to kind of take it in my hands. So I kind of took it as it came.
So in Belgium, you finished high school or secondary, and then did you go directly into a medical, the Catholic University dental school?
Yes, that's correct. So in Europe overall, that's how it works, is after high school, we go straight into whether it's medical school, dental school, law school. So
Yeah.
I went straight into dental school.
Now, did you have to like pass some quality, like that you have the aptitude to do this, or no?
Not at my time, but before
Okay.
me, there were entrance exams. Years later, there were entrance exams again to limit the number of dentists that would graduate, but not during my time. So I wanted to do dentistry. I just signed up.
I have a doc that works with us, and she married her husband's from Pakistan, and in high school, that was a key exam they had to take, and they had to
Mm,
get certain grades and a certain so they could get into one of the favored professions, which was medicine, engineering,
that's right.
etc. So was that part of the process in Belgium or no?
It was, and then it stopped, and then it now is because with the European Union, where people travel across borders, they are having a real problem of deciding who should get to practice, who shouldn't, who should get to enter school, and who shouldn't. Because each country, before the borders open, each country had their own ways of administering entrance into school, graduation, and practice, and so forth.
Okay, so you finished dental school in how many years does that take then? Is it 4? Is it 5? What does it look like?
That was 5 years back
5
then.
years. So basically you get a year of college, let's say, and then you get whatever. But so you finish up and you have a general dentist degree.
That's correct.
So when did endo become a factor? Was it Case Western when you first went endo?
That was when I first went to endo residency. The idea of
So,
endo started in my fourth year. That was
okay.
when I said, "Oh wow, maybe I like this." I didn't really like anything else. I didn't hate it. It didn't appeal to me. Then an endo suddenly came out of the bushes,
That's
right?
interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So did you practice as a dentist or did you graduate and go directly to endo school?
So I practiced 2 years. By the time I entered Case Western, I had 2 years of practice under my belt.
In that area in Chicago, or where were you? Where'd you land?
No, so I practiced 2 years in Belgium as I was applying and
Really?
so forth. Yes, that's right.
That's interesting. Now, so if you had a Belgium dental degree and you wanted to practice dentistry in the United States, you'd have to get a United States dental degree, right?
It depends on which state, Sonny. There's
Ah,
a small number of states that if you do specialize or you do postgraduate
yeah.
training for so many years, then you could practice that specialty only
Okay.
in those states only. And
But
Oregon was one of those.
but if you want to do general dentistry, you'd have to go back to dental school and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, okay.
Another state would not even let me do endo because their rules are different.
So you went to Oregon first for the endodontic training, or you went to Case first? Where did you go first?
I went to Case first.
Okay. And that
Yes.
was 2 years or 3 years?
It was 2 years.
2 years.
It was
Okay,
99 to 2001.
so you graduate 2001. Are you itching to now, because you had a taste of private practice, are you itching to get into practice now? Or are you itching to kind of become the teacher?
So actually, as I finished endo, I itched to become a teacher. And in my head is that I'm going to teach endo for the rest of my life. So that was 3 years in Maryland and then 4 years in Oregon. And then suddenly my compass completely changed. I got a taste of the politics in
Right.
academia. I got a taste of not wanting to change in academia and all the red tape. And I said, oh, wow, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I went into private practice after those 7 years of trying academia.
Okay. So, all right. So that's interesting. The concept, so you were teaching in dental schools, you were teaching endodontics in dental schools, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And you had a side, was it the faculty practice? Is that how you saw patients?
Yes, but the factory practice, to be honest with you, was so underdeveloped. And then I joke with my students now. I said, I'm so glad you didn't meet me then because I only saw one patient every 2 weeks. In other words, I wasn't very competent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point, so you developed and you did the root camp, right? At what point does that start taking form?
In the last year, a year and a half at Oregon before I left, there was continuing education. So I was part of the process. I would teach 1 to 3 times a year.
I
And
gotcha.
then
Yeah.
I said,
Through the
oh,
through the school, through the
through the
Oregon Dental
school.
School, right? Yeah.
That's right, through OHSU. And then as I left OHSU, I said, oh, I kind of like that. So I said, as I opened my practice, let's try to do that once or twice a year. And that's when it started. But I can tell you, Sonny, you look at root camp then and root camp now, it's like a baby that became a young adult.
Yeah, I believe it.
Complete metamorphosis.
So I got to ask you now, let's talk about business and entrepreneurship, right? So was there any exposure along the way, either to your father or your mom in their various careers now that they're into of, hey, run a business. Here's how you run a business. Or were there other mentors that were people that helped you with running a business?
Not really. Neither of my parents are entrepreneurs. I mean, my dad opened his practice. He pierced through, but it wasn't necessarily his forte, right? So to answer your question, if I can think of anything, it's probably the 12.5% of Chinese blood in me that probably gave me the entrepreneurship. And that goes back to my grandparents that came from China and then landed in Vietnam. And
Okay.
as we know, Chinese people are very, very entrepreneurial. And so that's the only
So,
answer I could offer.
so talk about the road that you saw, right? Because you just said it was from a baby to a grown adult. You had to hit some challenges, you had to hit some roadblocks, you had to hit some real things that made you question or made you think, hey, am I going to be able to do this? Talk about your path from that baby and nurturing and developing it. And what are some of the challenges that you faced along that journey?
So, short answer first, Sonny, is it's probably the same as what my parents did with my sister and me, and they took us day by day. If you ask them, it's like, what did you have in mind? They said, we just had to survive. So, same thing here. As I grew root camp, it was just about survival. It was about getting patients in the door in my practice, and then to do root camp on the side because I liked it, but also it was gonna supplement income. And so that was for many years that was the flow. And then
Mhm.
suddenly it kicked in, right? It's like, wow, I like this. We're getting good results and we're changing lives. And that's when it started to take off. And root camp sprung forward like never before.
So what was the tipping point? What was the tipping point? Do you remember what it was?
Yes, the tipping point was about 2015, 16. And it was in parallel with the tipping point of my practice. So for about 5, 6 years, we struggle like very, very much in practice. And
Mhm.
because I had no experience, right, running a practice. I came
Yeah,
out of
right.
endo school, taught for 7 years. My skills went rusty. My
Mhm.
business skills was zero. So 5, 6 years, or actually I would say 7 years of struggling. And those struggles were what I added to root camp. So root
Mhm.
camp isn't just endo techniques. Root camp is how do you survive the battlefield of dentistry, right? And in my case was endo. And how do you thrive after surviving that battlefield? And so that's what added to root camp. And that's when people start to say, wow, so you're not just teaching me how to do a root canal fast, you're teaching me to do it so that it can change my life. And that's a tipping point.
Okay. You talked about the financial part and the other part, right? At what point did it become profitable?
Root camp specific, that's what you're asking, right, son?
Yeah.
So probably around 2018.
So a little bit after the tipping point.
That's right. That's right.
So think about that now. So you've been running this entity for how many years?
Since 2009,
So for
officially.
9 years, you're running something for 9 years that's not generating any profits.
That's right.
Most people hang it up after 2 or 3, right? 2, 3, 4, like, why am I doing this? But you were driven. You have a passion for teaching, okay? And you obviously never got discouraged. Did you run into any roadblocks from a implementation standpoint? Like, I know people that have done some implant courses and working on live patients or working on this. Have you run into any of those challenges along the way where you had to overcome some, I want to call it politics, but kind of is, right?
Right.
What did that look like?
Right. So the biggest challenges for me, Sonny, were one, my dilemma about whether I should be sponsored or not. That was a big that I had
Hmm.
to face and then make a decision about. And the second challenge was who was coming to the courses. Because I quickly realized as it picked up speed and I had a lot of students coming through, I quickly realized there was only a small portion that were very serious about learning to do high quality endo. And that's what I wanted to teach, right? I didn't want a course to bring money in. I wanted a course that would help people. And if it helps people, it would bring money in. So I
Hmm.
always put the course before the money. And that was a big problem for me is I quickly realized a lot of these doctors wanted a course that would be cheap, easy, fast, and would be quality. And that was not going to happen. And I could have lied to them. And then that's when I said, we need to clearly have a brand that will be very specific about one, we're not sponsored, meaning what I teach you is because it's how it should be, not because I'm being told how it should be. And then two, if you're not serious about learning, I'm not being arrogant by saying don't come. I'm just saying you're going to waste your time, which is so precious. It's not a tuition you're about to waste. That's what I'm trying to say. It's your time that you're going
Hmm.
to be here, and we're not going to be successful because we're two different breeds, right? Not good or bad, two different breeds looking for two different things,
Hmm.
and those were my biggest challenges. Once I overcame those, that's when we start to really take off.
So about how many people a year are graduating either level 1, level 2, whatever? Just
So level one, we probably have between 120, 130 a year.
okay.
Especially back then when I had pretty much one, sometimes two courses a month.
Uh-huh.
Um, the level four, we graduate about 8 mini residents a year.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So when you're like you said it, you go and you have it in Japan, you have it in, is there any challenges with going in international waters and now doing dentistry per se and outside of where your license covers?
Not really, because like you were saying earlier, people are people. And the only things I need to be aware of is culture, of course, and habits. And
Well, let me rephrase the question then, because I didn't say it right. For you to bring your class and teach and provide the skills and the work, number one, technically you're not licensed in that country to do dentistry. You're
right.
licensed here. So is that a challenge? And then second thing, can you bring dentists, like let's say, hey, I'm a dentist from America. You're going to teach in Japan. I'm going to make a journey out of it. I want to go take this course over there.
Yes.
Are there some challenges with that in terms of the dentistry being practiced outside of a licensure?
So level one, that's why it's portable. Level one only involves extracted teeth on a
Okay.
model that allows you to use what we call small weapons, apex locator rotaries. So it involves no licensing restrictions
Like
for
a
either
lab course
the
then.
locals
Yeah.
or the foreigners that travel to those
Okay.
countries.
Now, are there live patients at any point in this course?
Yes, at the level four. So
Okay.
I'm gonna explain a little bit more. So every week we meet with the mini residents, and they have trained on cadavers. But now they bring live cases every Tuesday when we meet. For 3 hours, we have our Zoom, right? So they bring CTs on, PowerPoints, radiographs, and then we dissect the case. And then they go and do the case on live patients, and they video through the microscope. And then we debrief another Tuesday, and we look at what they did, where it went well, where it didn't go well. So that's the only live patient component,
Okay.
not under my direct supervision, but under
I
my
got you.
guidance.
I got you. Okay, that makes sense. So I can imagine the sponsorship's a big deal, right? So, okay, you're going to have an endomotor. Whose endomotor are you using? You're going to use, files. Whose files are you using? Who are you endorsing? Do you have a Dr. Nguyen brand of files? I mean, like that was something that we were talking about Kit Weathers off air when he had a little
Right.
root camp. He had a Endomagic, right?
Right.
That was his brand, and he had licensed certain rotary files under his name tag. So is that what you mean by which, the being free of brands, or, talk to that?
I'm so glad you asked the question. This is very big for me, and it's deep in here. So thank you for asking the question. First of all, my philosophy, and it goes back to those days when I solved the problem, right, about sponsorship, is I became very clear is I do not want any sponsorship of whatever kind. And forgive me for what I'm about to say as an analogy is the moments I do, and I don't want to speak for others, right? I only speak for myself. The moment I take sponsorship, I prostitute myself
Yeah.
in terms of teaching, right? And
Mhm.
I sell myself. And that's when I refuse to do it. And again, I want to be clear. I don't want to speak for others. I'm not
Right.
pointing fingers. It's a choice of
Right.
mine. So with that, what's my philosophy? People say, what system do you teach? That's a question that comes up all the time, right? When they inquire about courses. I said, I don't teach a system because I'd be attaching you to a brand and you wouldn't want that. But I teach a technique into which you can actually import brands. And the people say, "Oh my God, this is so cool. It's liberating." And
Mhm.
that's who we are. And we're very proud, but it's very hard because there's that money that keeps talking to you, right? And money is
Yeah.
important. And as an immigrant, money is important. But I've learned to put money second to what I do, which is either patient care or teaching, because those
But
should be
honestly, if one of your students asks you, say, or you got to say, listen, if you're going to get serious about it, no, here's some of the costs you're going to have to get. You're going to have to get an electric handpiece. You're
right.
going to have, you have to kind of lay that out. I would think that if they said, hey, what kind of handpieces do you use? Well, you can say, here's 5 different companies or 5 different brands. They
Right.
all have the functions that I think help make the system work.
Right.
And because I think that's helpful when you're in a course to have at least some of that exposure.
Yes. So here's how we're very practical. Here's what we tell students. Let's take the motor, for example, like the endo
Yeah,
motor,
stick
right?
with the motor. Let's keep
That's
that
right.
there. That's good.
As an
Yeah.
example. I say, well, as long as your motor can do 250 RPM and 5 value of torque, that's all what I need. I don't need a certain brand, a certain way. And we haven't talked about this, but I simplify endo. So in simplifying endo, I just need rotation at 250 RPM and 5 Newton centimeter torque. And student said, yeah, but what brand? I said, well, whatever brand you drive as a car, you should
Right.
think about it. Japanese, Korean. And they say,
Right. So,
oh,
but you're also saying that there's not like you don't need reciprocation. You don't need like there's some other functions, right, that are in with other systems.
that's right. Not in my
Right.
mind. For example, now it's very popular to have handpieces attached to an apex locator.
Yeah.
And those who attend level one quickly understand why it wouldn't work very well. Therefore, when it comes to the motor, I only need a motor that does this and does that. Now, rotary files, as another example, I said, here are 5 properties you need to keep in mind when you choose your brand on Monday. And I go through the 5 and I say, wow. And they ask questions. And then some will say, well, what if I ask for a brand? I said, well, here's the brand we use. You could do that. But I never tell them that they have to buy a certain brand. I don't endorse a brand. And here's the most drastic example, Sonny, is we have our own rotary files. And as part of level one, I quickly tell them, I was like, let me be clear, you don't have to buy my files because you could use any other files because it's not about the files, it's about the technique and the operator who does it and the why and then the how. And that's when students love it, right? They feel like, wow, I love the fact you don't make me buy a certain brand. And that's how teaching should be. And I mean, I'm very sad at times to see how teaching has completely been derailed by sponsorship. Again, not pointing fingers. It's just as a teacher, it makes me very sad.
Okay. I'm a dentist. I don't like endo. I'm just using it as an example. Not me personally. I like endo. I hated endo in dental school. My story is I literally hated it. And the way they taught it was so complicated. And you're going to clean and shape this, and then you're going to get the middle third, and then the lower. And I was like, I just struggled with it. And I was doing quite well in all my other courses, right? So I was like, why am I struggling with this? And why is this so hard?
Right.
So the chairman of the endodontic department was actually happened to be my preceptor of my 8 people in my group.
Right.
Little Asian woman, Ming Shi, and then she married Levine, so it was Ming Shi Levine. And she sat there and she watched me just struggle and frustrated. And then finally I just said, I don't get it. Like I don't get it. She was like, she said to me, I was waiting for you to come to me. I was like, and then inside I'm pissed. I'm like, you saw me struggle and you didn't just reach out? No, you needed to come to me. Then she sat with me, brought me into her office, worked on hand files, technique, simple things, right? And it was like cloud lifted. Then I minored in endo in dental school, right? So I did a bunch of extras. I did some summer. I worked with the grad students. I love it. So it was, listen, just it's an ice cream cone. Make it an ice cream cone. If you told me that, it would have been pretty easy, but the way they taught it was so complicated. So let me give you an example so I can get this question out. So I'm a young dentist. I'm in 10 years in practice. Okay. So I'm within my first 10 years of practice. I have avoided endo. Okay.
Yes.
I'll do maybe an anterior. Okay. I'll maybe do like something that's, single one shot easy. It's not too complicated in my mind. Premolars starting to get a little hairy. Molars, I don't want to go near. Okay. What are some of the things you can say to address the average dentist who has those, I'm going to call them hangups, okay?
Right.
Or we'll say roadblocks to doing endodontics?
Wow. So let me start with the most important, and then you stop me when you stop me. The first thing I tell them is like, I'd like to teach you to do why endo before how endo, because how endo becomes very frustrating really fast because you can't solve your own problems. So that's the first thing I tell them is we're gonna do a lot of whys, and that will make the mini house so much easier. The next thing I say is it's a warning. It's like I'm very good at simplifying endo, but I cannot make endo simple because it'd be a lie. Endo cannot be simple, but I can simplify it, and yet it would still be hard. And many then suddenly turn around and walk away very sad. The next thing I'll tell them is you need to learn to do endo that works and endo that pays. And endo that works needs to be clean, not pretty. And there's so many endos now that are very pretty and that they don't work because they don't teach them to clean. Why? Because they go on the easy path. And just like I said, endo that is effective and efficient cannot be easy. It can be easier, and yet it's to be hard. So I would want to teach them endo that works and therefore endo that pays. Because a lot of them take so long to do it and still it would fail because they didn't learn endo that cleans. They learn endo that looks pretty. So that's a big move. And one of the turning points in that area is to learn apical gauging. What size do you finish at? And too many, even in endo school sometimes, they don't know what size to finish at. They will approximate. And I take the example of shoe sizes, right? When we go to the shoe store, do they approximate our shoe size? It's like, absolutely not. They will measure our size and they'll fit us with a shoe that's comfortable. Well, why don't we do that in endo? Why do we do molars? We'll finish around 30, 25. That's mad. So I teach them to measure the shoe size of each apex because a molar could have 3 different shoe sizes. So that's very big. And then the biggest thing is that I want them to learn apical surgery. Because at the end of the day, and I do this, right, Sonny? This is the delta at the end of the route. And doing non-surgical endo is a shot in the dark because we don't know what part of the delta we clean, what part of the delta we sealed. And of course, that's what we do first is non-surgical. But at the end of the day, if everything fails, we still get to do an apical surgery. And that takes the unpredictable part of the root canal away. And that's the delta region. And somehow it's not being taught in endo so much anymore. We're probably one of the few dinosaurs left that believe in apical surgery. And yet that will preserve the natural implant compared to the artificial implant. And that's another part that makes me very sad. We extract so many teeth that could be saved. Imagine an orthopedic surgeon that extract so many arms that could have been saved, or so many legs that could have been saved.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
very dear to my heart, is apical surgery. Is at the end of the day,
Well,
and level one, we start teaching apical surgery. And people say, what? How do you teach apical surgery at level one? It's like, well, it's so important because you need to start there. And
we got titaniumitis.
I like that. Yeah.
Everything is fixed with an implant. That's
Oh,
the thing. And I just, it's disheartening that we've sort of lost our way, and we think that
oh,
that's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we don't recognize some of the risks and failures that go along with implants. Like
absolutely. I don't know if you can see from where you are, but we're very proud of being focused on do no harm. And as doctors, we dental doctors have forgotten about that oath, right? Of doing no harm. How do we claim to be doctors and take teeth that are savable away? It's unfathomable.
agree. I agree. All right, so I'm going to wrap up in a couple. I really appreciate your time and your compassion, and you can feel it, and you can hear your passion in your voice. That comes through loud and clear. Now, I'm fortunate. I'm looking at you. A lot of these people that are taking in the podcast are going to be listening to the audio version, but I think it projects quite well. There's a man in front of you that you're listening to who is passionate about what he does, and he wants to pass that along to you. Not just the knowledge. To me, it's not just the knowledge of the who's and the whys, like you said, right? The what's and the whys, but it's also the passion. And that comes through your pores, right? And there's got to be nothing greater, because I'm a basketball coach. I've coached for years, and
Oh,
there's nothing better than when someone gets that light in their eye. Like you said it with your fourth mini residency. If you know, you know, right? That you don't have to follow them because you know they're committed, right?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So that's like the chicken and the egg story. Have you heard this before? You ever have
Yes, yes.
so you've had ham and eggs for breakfast?
I usually don't, but I see where you go.
Let's say you're going to have ham and eggs for breakfast, or bacon and eggs is
Yes,
another
yes,
popular one, right? Well,
yes.
in bacon and eggs, right? The chicken's involved in the
Right.
ham and eggs, but the pig is committed. Okay. So you're looking for people that want to be pigs,
Oh,
that are committed to doing it, right?
absolutely.
So I think that comes through loud and clear. So, final piece of advice:
Yes.
any dentist out there who wants to up their game,
Yes, sir.
what do you talk to them? What do you tell them?
So this is the biggest of my passion, bigger than endo. And it's summarized into two words: time and health. And people said, what do you mean? Time and health are the only two things that not you, Sonny, not me, not Elon Musk, not the richest king on earth could ever buy. All the world's gold couldn't buy another minute or another ounce of health. And as dentists, we know what we exchange every day as we cross that door, right? The moment we cross that door, time and health are being sucked out of us. And I mean, I feel very blessed for being a dentist and that it's brought me where I am. But we cannot ignore that it's costing us life, because time and health are those two things that make life. There are, of course, other things that make life, right? But without time and without health, there's no life. We would be dead. And I see so many of us wasting time and health as if we had more either to take from a reserve or more that we could buy from someone else, and we can't. So what really gets our residents so motivated is they want to use endo to get out that rat race of dentistry. Is how do I get to go back to my family and enjoy really the fruit of my labor? And most dentists can't. We work longer hours for cheaper, harder, and faster with lower and lower quality. And it's very stressful. And stress, that's costs health. And of course, the time we spend at the office. I don't have to describe that. So ultimately, the piece of advice is, even if we're not dentists, Everyone has to protect the time and health. And yet we exchange the two things we can buy for what? For more money that we can quote unquote buy by working harder. And that's insanity. So that's become my passion. And there's a book coming out soon on this topic. And I'm so passionate about this. And my students know it, right? So at level one, a small portion carry on and they say, oh my God, how do I learn to protect my time and health? And the residents ultimately are the ones that push the hardest. I just got a message yesterday from one of the residents I trained, and he started about 2 years ago. And he sent me a message yesterday. I collected 1.3 million in 2025, and that was 2 years after he trained, and it has to do with apical surgery and doing things that others can't do to save teeth. And part of his message, I've saved so many teeth that others were trashing when, and patients are finding me. And he says he's taking more vacations, and he's seeing life again. But when I met him at level one, you know what he said? He said, "When I just bought cabinets. I don't think I could buy the big weapons you want me to buy to train me, let alone to pay for the mini residency." But yet somehow he got to do it. And now he said, I'm closer to freedom. And that's part of the thing, right? Is how do we free ourselves from the rat race? It's not dentistry, it's the rat race. And
Now, there was a quote, I think it was Steve Jobs, and he talks about that time and health, right? A lot of people spend their time at the expense of their health. And then when they're later in life, their health fails and they're running out of time. They can't get either of those back.
Absolutely. And
Right?
I
Can't
remember
remember
the famous letter that Steve Jobs wrote as he was dying of cancer, right?
Yeah.
And it's so shocking how we would only realize it in later years, right? When our health fails, like you were saying. And part of our curriculum is we teach this young man who doesn't have money, this middle-aged man who doesn't have time, and this old man who sits on the bench who doesn't have health.
Right.
And the question is, how do we solve the dilemma? Because it's a dilemma. And I say, yes, there is a way. And people say, no, that's life. You have to go through those phases. I know, not necessarily. If you understand time and health, you want to cherish it, then there's a way, but it's hard. And that's when people again walk away very sad. It's like, I thought you could easily show me. And it's like, no, if it were easy, we would all be doing it.
Well, the first thing you got to tell the young dentist, don't buy the damn cabinets. Cabinets are a scam. Cabinets are a scam. So many people drop thousands of dollars on cabinets in their rooms, and they don't need them. They really don't. They're listening to the dental salesman, and they're not listening to other doctors, And then, if nothing else, what COVID taught us, like, listen, minimize, go minimalist in your operatory.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Less surfaces to clean. We had a practice where the dentist, he drank the Kool-Aid a little bit. So he had, the rear cabinets and the back thing and the this, and then he had on both sides of the operatory cabinets with 2 sinks. And we took all of that out in COVID, every last bit of it. Right. And we just cleaned up that room, and they're sitting in my garage. I can't even get rid of them. But it will cost a fortune. There was probably $50,000 in cabinets in one operatory. And it's nuts. Anyway, I digress, but I was just a joke about the cabinet thing. But your point is true, and I'm sure that your students are going to get it. So let's do a plug.
Allow me to actually add this, Sonny, if you could please.
Please do.
As much as time and health are my very passion, right? I want to throw this in that time and health wouldn't exist if students, whether it's in dental school or after they graduate, don't understand this concept of skills, then technology. And unfortunately, now you see it everywhere, right? It's technology before skills or without skills. Meaning technology gives you this illusion that you are so good because all it takes is push buttons. And that's very dangerous because it makes dentists and doctors who actually are not very skilled. And there's so many of them that will go buy technology, and it's not just cabinets now. It's technology that will get you in debt, and debt get you to work longer and longer hours, harder and harder for less and less, costing you time and health. It's an equation that's so dear to me.
I think the one question, and Gordon Christensen answered this before you do something, a product that's going to be a winner is something that can do it better, can do it faster, and or cheaper. all three. If they
Mm.
do all three, and wait, no, faster, easier,
Mm.
simpler, and for less money. So in other words, and his example was bonding agents, right? If you have a bonding agent and it's 6 bottles, and it takes you an extra 4 minutes for every tooth you work on,
Mm.
and it gives you 1 megapascal better bonding surface. Okay. So what did it cost you in time? What did it cost you now? Or you have a single bottle system that is a wipe on, 5 seconds, dry off, and bond to it. That's going to be a no-brainer
Right.
because it's less products, much simpler to do, and it's going to end up being cheaper in the long run.
Right. And
So,
and I never heard Gordon Christian say that. I only hear it through you. So here's what I would like to add is there's a triad that says quality, speed, and cost. And in the triad that Gordon Christensen mentioned, we don't see quality. Again, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just analyzing, right? Is in nowadays dentistry, we forget the quality part. We want it faster and easier and cheaper. And that's called the race to the bottom. Is all
it is a
dentists,
race to the bottom.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And you see that, unfortunately, see that in a lot of when people get involved in insurance plans and they continue
Absolutely.
getting squeezed on your fees. Well, you got to make it up in volume and you got to make it up in, what do they call that? Economy of scales. Come
Right.
on. No, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not.
But we
Okay.
know why, right, Sonny? It's because of skills. If the dentists had higher skills, they wouldn't have to bend over to insurance. But we have to when we're not very skilled. Again, not being looking down on people is you when you're good, you don't have to be dictated on. So it goes back to skills, but skills is hard. What I tell my students is if you're not willing to go through hard, we're not the
Mhm.
right course for you because I'm going to be a very hard teacher and the concepts I teach are very hard, but it will make you very skilled. Then you add technology to it and you become unbeatable.
Right. You know what Dr. Garg talks about? He does his implant. There's a little bit of a misnomer that fast means poor quality and slow means better quality. He said that doesn't always hold true. He's like, for example, take if you have a car that needs its wheels changed and you're going into a pit stop in F1, right?
Right.
And they're doing it in 3 minutes. Does that mean that they're worse at it? Or does that mean that they are so refined in their skill set,
Ah, there you go.
right? So it backs up what you're saying,
Oh,
but it breaks the what do you call it? The paradigm, paradigm,
yes.
paradigm that to be good, you have to be slow.
Right.
And if you're going fast, you must be cutting corners and you must be
Yeah.
sacrificing quality. It's kind of interesting. And you're saying there's a lot of similarities in what you're communicating, and I hope people are listening
Oh,
to it.
I totally agree with Dr. Garg because you know what we teach. Probably the people who listen to us don't. We teach 30-minute molar quality endo. And it's like, what?
There you go.
30-minute
There you
molar
go.
endo? That's impossible, let alone quality endo. And it goes back to let me teach you skills, not technology. That's the thing, right?
There you go. Let's end the show on that. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much. If people want more information on Root Camp, how do they get it?
They can just call me. We're a small mom and pop. I believe in personal interaction. My number is 903-744-2308. They call me and they ask for Nguyen. I don't have staff that answer phone. I answer my own phone. And they
Do
can
you
also,
have a website or do you have any other communication?
yes, rootcampcourses.com. And
Root
then to
Camp
look at,
courses.
yes,
Okay.
rootcampcourses.com. And to look at our schedule, it's simply store.rootcampcourses.com.
Do me a favor, just send me a quick note. I'll put that in the show notes so people can get all that stuff,
Yes, sir.
including your phone number, your contact. And then if you want to put some of your schedule, please do. All right, my friend, thank you very much. I appreciate you very much. And hopefully people learn. And I love your story. I love what you went through to get to where you are. And I'm sure that every step of the way has made you what you are today, because without it, things would be different. So
Right.
appreciate everything you've done.
Yes. I hope one day
Thank you.
we'd have the time to talk about laser and endo. But for now, thank you for your time and thank you for your health because those cannot be bought back. Thank you very much, Sonny.
Hey, Win,
Yes, sir.
hold that thought. We're going to have part 2. Let's get it on the books. Let's add the laser component.
I
Okay?
would love that. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Take care.
Take care.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live events.